All right, we'll be back from the break, and like I did mention that after the break, we shall be switching to more business updates, and which we shall be starting with our first business update of the day, and of which, if we are to speak of the business update of the day that we kickstart off with this morning, it's taking us back to the Entebbe International Airport saga, and of which the Entebbe International Airport saga did cause a lot of havoc at the start of the year, and especially when it comes to the corruption cases that were being reported at the end of it all. And as a matter of fact, you got to realize that most of the Ugandans were setting up their different situations when it comes to what they've been facing at the airport in regards to the charge fees that they were actually receiving. Some of them were actually saying that they missed what they call flights during the time due to some of the officials who work at the airport, and this is one of the reasons as to why most of them had issues in regards to the airport and had to report some of these issues. And with this extension on the follow-up of the Entebbe International Airport corruption saga, we get this update kicking it off with that is Mr. Vianney Luja giving us more details of it. All right, now with this particular update, let's first get a press review fast as we get into more of what is coming up from the world of business updates as well. And like I did mention before we actually rush into the press review, is that pretty much a time for you to get to realize that the year is into the second month. And with this particular second month of the year of February, the business community in the country is not that trembling a lot. And the mere fact that the first few weeks of February and the latter weeks of January were characterized with students getting back to their different workplaces and rather to their different schools to kickstart off first term. Now, speaking of this particular week of February, this very one that kicks off today on the 13th, you get to realize that it's a week that is going to be characterized with a lot of education stories as well. The mere fact that students of Makerere University will be graduating, it's graduation week at Makerere, and then tomorrow is 14th, a day of love celebrations. Still, the business community can capitalize such moments to make some good money. And with that, let's kick off with the press review this particular moment before we rush into what is making headlines from the business outlets. And with the press review, I've got the New Vision, the Daily Monitor, and the East African. And with the New Vision, their inside efforts to resolve the January 23rd Parliament censure as NRM top leaders meet Speaker Among and Persis Namuganza. Remember, Persis Namuganza was censored a few weeks back by members of Parliament. Also with the New Vision is that President Museveni has tipped journalists on prosperity. Which prosperity has he tipped them on? Remember, he has as well assured them that, well, they will be getting support through their circles as President Museveni met with leaders of the Chambogo, of the Uganda Journalists Association that was at the Chambogo University grounds on Saturday. And while he was addressing them, this was during the closure of the Journalists 5-day residential symposium on the socio-economic transformation. That was over a one-week training at the Chambogo University grounds. Then on the other way around, the new curriculum, Senior 2 Chemistry and Senior 3 Math and Physics, how is it going to be executed? More details here in the New Vision. Now, also on the other hand is that President Museveni has appointed new party coordinators. That is more to do with political aspirations in here. Now, the NSSF probe, that is the Minister of Gender and Social Development, Betty Yamongi, and the former Managing Director, Richard Byarugaba, face off. This is a detail regarding NSSF, still with the New Vision this particular morning, as well as you can get more of the details coming up shortly this particular time round here in regards to the business matters. Also from the new vision, lastly, government is set to build 687 solar-powered irrigation sites. That is more with the new vision as you get to realize it as well. Now, crossing over to the Daily Monitor this morning, is that there is inside the fight at the Ugandan embassies. As reports indicate that fights over control, finances and supremacy at 17 Ugandan embassies abroad are fracturing work relations and lowering the morale among staff members. That is a detail coming in from here in regards to money and power with Uganda and all the embassy crisis in that space. Now, also the Daily Monitor has highlighted that Richard Yarugaba and Betty Yamongi are clashing over NSSF savings. You can get more details this morning as well. And in other news, Minister Kasaija has blocked 370 billion Chisenyi land purchase-wise debt. So the Daily Monitor has a more detailed report in here. And when it comes to the education, after the UCE results were released last week, top schools are set to raise cut-off points for Senior 5. And which schools are those and what are the cut-off points that have been raised? You can still get more of this particular one. Now, Christians, on the other hand, have failed to collect 700 million shillings for Bishop Party. These are Christians in Mukono, the Mukono diocese, who are struggling to raise 700 million shillings required for the construction of their new bishop. This is according to the new vision this particular morning. So you can get more of what is coming up here with the press review. And lastly, from the press review this morning, we look at the East African. As the Airbus, Boeing are vying for Ugandan orders. So the European and US firms executives have been camping in Kampala to pitch sales of their narrow-body planes as the carrier prepares to service international routes like London and Dubai. So the Uganda Airlines is having two big boys in the race to at least give them or to supply aircraft to them. That is the Airbus and Boeing. And then on the other hand as well is that in the markets, Alphabet is sharing dive on Eddie or on adverts goof as on in the markets in the money sections. Kenya experiments with real estate trusts is actually getting into an activity being raised on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. All right, and that is all for the press review this morning as you're watching Smart Means Business. All right, now I did mention that we shall be having a news update regarding the developments of the Entebbe International Airport just a few weeks back after Ugandans went on social media, and especially those who travel using the airport were actually giving up their grievances and showing their dissatisfaction over the way some of the officials do handle themselves at the national airport. This led to a number of them coming up with different sorts of revelations that when you look at how they've been mistreated at the airport by the airport officials, some say there are cases of bribery and which have caused many of them to lose flights and cancel flights because most of them could not meet these bribes. But also there are various kinds of extortions in form of the kind of fees that are being charged by different cafeterias at the airport, charging 3 times higher than the normal retail price of a commodity. But still on the same situation, as we follow up on this matter, you get to realize that most of the reasons behind this one is that the Entebbe International Airport officials as well as the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority have confirmed and continuously reminded Ugandans to pay more attention on the fact that they will be working upon solving the same issue. And in this particular update, we get to at least have more of an insightful follow-up coming in from the Manager Public Relations and Affairs Civil Aviation Authority, that is Mr. Vianney Luja, giving us more on a follow-up of the Entebbe International Airport saga and what other measures that the Civil Aviation Authority has worked upon to ensure safe travel and convenient travel for the Ugandans treading their plight and using the Entebbe International Airport as an exit and as an entry point into the country.
have noted feedback through social media and other channels, but I would like to inform Ugandans and all the users of the facilities at Entebbe International Airport that the actions that we have taken have not just started today. We have previously undertaken action aimed at eradicating this vice relating to the complaints of extortion, among others. And to show that we have taken action in the past, we have previously punished a total of 26 members of staff from the different agencies operating at Entebbe International Airport, including immigration, customs, port health, security agencies, handling agents, including NAS and DAS, airlines themselves, labor desk officials, among others. That action was taken in the last 2 years, from the period 2020 to date. Now that shows that based on feedback that we were receiving through the existing channels, we were already working on this issue. However, in the last month, there was an outcry on social media, and based on that outcry, some more actions were taken, including follow-up on some of the legitimate videos, and that follow-up culminated into arrest of about 4 members of staff from different agencies who have been interrogated and are going through a disciplinary process. So while we appreciate the feedback that we got on social media, there is also a lot of it that was unfortunately exaggerated. There was legitimate feedback through videos, but there was also illegitimate feedback. You may have seen, for instance, someone putting on a white uniform with and pretending as if they were working at the airport and talking to presumed passengers very rudely. And then he eventually asks the person to go to another counter, picks up a phone, and as if talking to the other officer that charged $300. There were some of those videos which were illegitimate and just exaggerated. Others were just comic. So just to let the public know that not everything that was on social media was actually correct or a reflection of what happens at the airport. Also, it's important to clarify that these actions that are unfortunate, we do not condone them as the management of Uganda CAA and as management of the airport. We do not in any way condone them, and that is why we are taking action. And these are actions by a few individuals, not all. We have a lot of staff from different agencies who are doing a good job and committed to their work. But these few bad apples are the ones that have created that unnecessary impression. Nevertheless, a number of things were agreed on going forward and have already been implemented. Most of them are already being implemented. For instance, we issued a directive that all the staff of stakeholders operating at the airport should have their names embroidered clearly on their uniforms, and that is already in place. So that when a passenger is interfacing with you, they can tell that I'm dealing with so and so. 2, we prohibited use of mobile phones by staff of different agencies who interface with the passengers. As long as they are on duty, they should not have their personal mobile phones, except the supervisors who have been left with these phones. 3, we agreed to harmonize on operations. And through the harmonization, we have reduced on the number of desks that a passenger was going through. There was multiple desks even before you enter the check-in area. For instance, we had the labor desk, we had another one for yellow fever, and another one for port health, checking whether you have a full COVID-19 vaccination or a PCR test certificate. So these, we are saying some of these roles can be performed by fewer people and more efficiently. So some of these roles have been handed over to the document verification desk that is manned by handling agents, NAS and DAS. And other roles like those previously performed by the labor desk will be performed by immigration officers. So we are having fewer checks that a passenger goes through than what we previously had. And that is also going to help us a lot in reducing on complaints, 1, but also chances of passengers missing flights, because some of the complaints were passengers missing flights. But as you go through these multiple checks, even before you reach the check-in counters, you are losing time. So that is a very important measure. Then also, very importantly, we are saying that after a passenger has gone through the entire check-in departure process and gone past immigration and the last security checkpoint, he's in the boarding area waiting to board a flight. there should be no more offloading of this passenger or calling them back for any reason whatsoever. If for any reason this passenger needs to be called back, that must be done with permission from Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, and there are only two people to grant this permission, which is either the Director Airports and Aviation Security or the General Manager of Entebbe International Airport. They are the only two people authorized to grant permission for calling back a passenger who has gone through the entire departure process. We believe that these measures, plus enhanced customer care training for all those operating at the airport, will help us overcome the challenge and the complaints. Already, we are seeing a difference. There's a very smooth flow of passengers right now, especially because of the removal of the multiple desks that were there before.
All right, now there have been a lot of stringent measures that have been put in place by the Civil Aviation Authority, and one of which includes most of the staff people, or all of the staff members at the airport will have to wear uniforms with their names embodied on them for easy identification, so that any other person who apparently gets to report a case, they will be reporting a certain individual who apparently did that same thing. So it is not all about just coming out to follow the hula baloo on social media and trying to report regardless of any kind of information that people do know of. So it is an effort that the Civil Aviation Authority and the airport officials are trying to see that they curb out corruption and make it easier for the Ugandans who use the airport to travel more efficiently and at least have no cases that are attached to it. But meanwhile, as we are heading into the break, you should be reminded that investing can be very easier and simple anytime, anywhere with Zabu. Zabu is a platform by Altex East Africa, and it does give you the opportunity to invest today in government securities, and of course, you can quickly choose so by also investing in government bonds. So investing in securities is the way to go lately, and you can choose to invest in those securities by using Zabu. Star 292 hash is the USSD code that you can use to kickstart off your investment journey, and it will be very effective as things go by. But after that, you can think about investing with just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Do remember that Zabu is a platform by Altex East Africa, and the markets on this platform open at 8:15 a.m. and close at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. The markets are only fully closed during the weekends and on public holidays. Zabu, my money, my future. Altex East Africa, do something new. Well, you can think of doing something new by investing in government bonds. You're still watching Smart Means Business. After the break, when I do return, I've got Karibu East Africa. That is the latest information coming in across the East African community. Not only that, we shall be heading to the international space to look at the business stories making headlines from there as well. Good morning.